haven't had communication with Banks for a long period of time, right?
He couldn't even tell you, like, at any point when you speak to him what the problem is. I put him, like, where I put Marquise.
You and Banks are not hanging out at the strip club.
50 Cent takes some responsibility for Lloyd Banks for toting Ayo.
What responsibility? Like a parent?
You're the leader.
What responsibility am I taking for him? Like, tell me, explain to me.
That you didn't encourage them to be independent
Nah,
sooner.
that's not true.
The truth about what actually transpired between Lloyd Banks and 50 Cent is now being addressed. And he's not holding back this time. He is accusing the 1950s of rewriting their history, which is not just conceited but also exposes half-truths. When G-Unit first emerged, it was one of the most potent hip-hop movements. Banks was the inspiration behind the words, but 50 was the face. G-Unit's voice, bars, and delivery gave him a lot of game weight. If nothing else, they moved like brothers. However, as celebrity gained power, things began to change. 50 started publicly attacking Banks, accusing him of being sluggish and lacking sufficient desire, almost as if he had given up on himself. He even drew Banks into his work. Banks remained silent at the time. He simply stayed out of interviews, Twitter feuds, and covert criticism. Now, though, he's tired of keeping quiet. Banks recently spoke candidly about everything in an interview. He believes that calling someone lazy is not only incorrect but also obviously rude. What about it hurts the most? When things became tough, 50 wasn't even there. Banks claims that throughout his lowest points, 50 wasn't there to help him. He adds that despite 50's belief that Banks had fallen off, he continued to work. He simply didn't do it the way 50 wanted him to. He remained committed to life, music, and personal development on his own terms. And he's at last making amends after years of silence. However, you are aware of 50 moves, and it wasn't something he took lightly. Immediately after Banks concluded that interview, 50 returned with his own criticism. It appears that their friendship has lost all significance. Supporters disagree. Some believe 50 helped create the brand, while others believe he has been mistreating his day ones. The question that now needs to be answered is what actually happened to that G-Unit loyalty. Had 50 been lying to Banks for years to preserve his reputation, or had he always been telling the truth? Can the decision be altered, or is it final? And where do they even go from here? Please share your ideas in the comments section below. To ensure you don't miss the next in-depth study, don't forget to like, subscribe, and enable notifications. You're already aware.
He has Lazy Lloyd tattooed on his arm. He literally wears his laziness on his sleeve. He's always projected an unhelpful mixture of being both introverted and cocky at the same time.
Lloyd Banks kept quiet about the true nature of his friendship with 50 Cent for a long time. But 50 broke the silence with a sudden, haphazard strike at him. At last, Lloyd made the decision to take a stand and make the correction. Everything began when 50 posted a behind-the-scenes video of his tour to Instagram, in which he mentioned Lloyd and Young Buck in passing. However, the tone? Very suspicious. Fans and Lloyd himself were not pleased that he seemed to be making fun of Lloyd for not being as well known as he had intended. And that's exactly why Lloyd is different from 50. Lloyd has never really made use of the dubious interviews and social media posts that 50 Cent likes. So far, he has remained composed, private, and off the internet. In a rare interview, Lloyd was finally asked about his relationship with 50, and he didn't hold back. In addition to the rumors and disrespect, he addressed the long-standing charge that he was lazy. Something more than music was clearly at play here. It was intimate. Lloyd explained that despite 50's criticism of his lack of drive, he was actually dealing with a challenging circumstance, the death of his father. He asserted that he was attacked because he was going through real-life grief, not because he was getting help from someone he thought was family. Not once, but again and again. 50 popularized it as a joke in interviews, books, and memes.
So, Banks' temperament was definitely a little crazy. I'm not saying anything here that I haven't said to Banks directly. Another time I sat down with him, just when IG was starting to pop off, and tried to drop this gem on him. You gotta get on Instagram, I encouraged him. You can be a little awkward in person, so this is actually a better way for you to communicate with people. Nah, I don't want to do what he said. Why not? You can literally put punchlines under your pictures, make some new fans. Nah, that's corny, he told me. When Banks made that comment to me, I realized he had gone as far as he can go. In fact, my exact thought was, this is someone I can't invest another minute or dollar in.
Furthermore, although he gave Lloyd some credit by calling him a good lyricist, 50 didn't hold back on the rest. He claimed that Lloyd lacked the natural charisma and drive required to be a real star.
Very good lyricist. Among what are known as the punchline rappers, rappers who will end their bars with a funny or tongue-in-cheek line, Banks liked to call himself the PLK, or Punchline King. I don't know if he's the king, but I'll give it to him that he's in the conversation. He is not, however, a great live performer, stylish dresser, or a domineering personality. So if he doesn't check those three boxes, how is he going to get bigger and become the star in real life he is in?
But according to Banks, 50 was never truly there for him, especially during the trying moments when support would have been most required. And for Banks, that betrayal hurt more than any diss song. He also disputed that he fell off. Since 2021, he has secretly released 3 full-length albums as part of his Course of the Inevitable series. There were no memorable radio songs or large label promotions, just pure lyricism, consistency, and a clear love for the art form. Banks continued to rhyme even after he ceased participating in the industry's game. That's actually where the divide between him and 50 started. Banks was never attention-seeking or flashy and most definitely did not intend to go viral. He's a rapper's rapper, which means that bars come before buzz. That kind of intensity doesn't work. If you're not helping the empire expand, you're a liability. Banks, too? Being a foot soldier was no longer his goal. To understand how significant this is, you have to remember where they came from. Queens Banks, 50, and Tony Yale all grew up in South Jamaica. The industry did not create these friendships. These kids were from the same neighborhood and were utilizing music as a way to decompress from the fighting. When Get Rich or Die Tryin' took off in the 1950s, he brought his team along. G-Unit changed from being a rap group to becoming a movement. And when it came to bars, Banks was different. 50 possessed the charm and hooks, while Banks contributed the frigid delivery and intricate wordplay. Fans could see that right away. His mixtapes, Money in the Bank and Cold Corner, cemented his early reputation. In 2004, The Hunger for More was released, platinum within a month. Among the hits are Karma, On Fire, and I'm So Fly. At that moment, G-Unit seemed to be an unstoppable force. 50 ruled the charts. Banks became a famous lyricist. Yale fulfilled his duty, and subsequently Young Buck and Game injected even more energy. G-Unit was used in video games, shoes, merchandising, and music. However, as the fame and fortune grew, so did the strain. Buck was let go, the game went awry, and the tight-knit environment among the crew members started to wane. Banks then began withdrawing even more funds. Supporters started to wonder if he still cared when he started to skip press appearances and ghost events, even though he was never loud or combative in the first place. Behind the scenes, though, the story was different. Banks wasn't being lazy. He was in pain. Losing his father demotivated him, according to books, memes, and interviews. The public shaming continued. Additionally, even though 50 claimed to have done everything in his power to promote Banks' progress, he kept repeating the same degrading lie. He asserted that Banks lacked business savvy, motivation, and the ability to adjust to the situation. But maybe Banks didn't want to become someone he wasn't. He had no intention of becoming a brand. He just wanted to rap. And for that same reason, some of his fans still write for him now. Because in a world full of gimmicks and cloud chasers, Banks stuck to himself. Although he could have lost part of his commercial appeal as a result, he instead gained respect.
I had communication with Banks for a long period of time, right?
He couldn't even tell you, like, at any point when you speak to him what a problem is. I put him like where I put Marquise.
You and Banks are not hanging out at the strip club,
No, he goes though.
but you don't go.
No, I don't see me there. We went to Atlantic City. We was in there was a showcase. They expect a show to happen
Performance.
tonight. Yeah, we will see you at the show tonight. And I go, oh, they expecting a show. Like I was like, yo, call all of them, tell them to come here. When I asked Banks, like when you go to perform your shows, you don't do this song. This is the hardest record on your album. And he's like why? Cause you want it? I looked at it and I was like trying to understand where he was coming from. He had been on my last record. He's like, I ain't been on your record, this is not. And I was like, so what? You don't have to be on none of my records. Like, me being on your records is the favor. I put you on a record with Eminem on my first album, fool. Don't nobody even know you. We were anticipating success, not as much success as we actually had. And it would have been sufficient if we had half the success.
Ivo claimed in one interview that Banks lacked the motivation to match his skill. He even claimed that his lack of enthusiasm for social media was hurting his exposure and marketability. But silence wasn't a strategy for Banks. It's just his nature. He has always been private, has no desire to play the industrial game, and has a greater interest in bars than in brands. In the view of his devoted fans, that made him authentic. But he was a danger at 50, someone who would not do what he had envisioned for the expansion of the empire. He then really let loose in the book Hustle Harder, Hustle Smarter, published in the 1950s. He spoke in general terms, but he also gave names. He notably criticized Banks and Yeo, claiming that they were mentally stuck in the early 2000s and unwilling to change with the times. 50 said Banks was too traditional, too comfortable in his lane, and too resistant to change. He gave the impression that he had great potential but never realized it. According to him, Banks wasn't hungry enough. The biggest disappointment in 50's view was that he remained unknown while having the ability to become a highly popular rapper.
I was around 14 years old when Biggie and Pac were both popping. So that makes sense that they still resonate with him so deeply. I can relate. I still love the music from when I was that age too. The difference is I haven't patterned my career after KRS-One and Coogee Rap. What would be the point of that? They were both incredible in their moment. But I've always been concerned about creating my own moment rather than copying theirs. Years ago, I told Banks to film a video of his life and post it on YouTube. Introduce people to his lifestyle. Let the camera follow him around for a while and see how he moves. Maybe something he says or does will create a spark, go viral, and then he'll have some heat around him again. What I didn't want him to do was sit there writing punchline after punchline and then grow resentful when no one seemed to care about his mixtapes anymore. They say insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Before adding Biggie and Pac didn't do that. They're dead, my man, I told him. They died before this stuff was even invented. And how do you know they wouldn't be posting on IG if they were alive? It was a line of thinking that really blew my mind. It suggested that if Tupac was alive, he'd still be wearing leather vests and red bandanas tied around his head, sending girls his beeper number. Or that Biggie would still be wearing Coogee sweaters and playing Mortal Kombat 2 every night. In Banks' case, a lot of his failure to grow as an artist is connected to his emotional composition. Banks grew up in the same neighborhood as me, but was never a part of it in the same way. I actually hustled with his father. Banks was more content staying on his porch and watching the world from there. There's nothing wrong with that, but it underscored a particular aspect of his personality. Banks wanted things to come to him, as opposed to going out and getting them for himself. That's not me trying to assassinate his character. The guy has Lazy Lloyd tattooed on his arm. He literally wears his laziness on his sleeve. He's always projected an unhelpful mixture of being both introverted and cocky at the same time. The kind of person most comfortable being a big fish in a small pond. If Banks was hanging out in the studio with a bunch of unknown MCs, he'd be very confident. He'd enjoy being the center of attention. But if I suddenly showed up, he'd feel like he got demoted. He'd be bitter. He didn't feel like the center of attention anymore. I get it. I can take up a lot of the air in the room. The problem is that he'd never fight to get some of that oxygen back, which is exactly what a star is supposed to do. I believe a true star must possess 4 fundamental abilities: create great material, be a high-energy live performer, have a unique appearance, and possess a strong personality. Tupac had all 4. So does Mary J. Blige, Chris Brown too. If I'm being honest in evaluating Banks, he possesses maybe one of those qualities.
With this book, 50 publicly distanced himself from Banks for the first time. It was no longer just playful jabs or humorous mockery. It was clear that 50 was drawing a line, saying that Banks lacked the abilities needed to grow the company. Although Banks did not respond in interviews, Fans believe that he responded through music. He seemed to understand what was being said and how it felt coming from someone he once considered a brother, as seen by the lyrics of his song Stranger. Things that many others observed seemed to specifically address the tension with 50. This is where Lloyd's and 50's perspectives start to diverge significantly. For 50, success is loud, important, global, and measurable in terms of effect and financial gain. On a more quiet journey, though, Banks has found peace. According to him, success is about being able to provide for your family while staying true to yourself and pursuing your passions on your own terms. In addition, Banks admits that he was not always motivated. In interviews, he also admitted to hearing 50's remarks and understanding their viewpoints. He even acquired a lazy tattoo as a result. But in his opinion, being honest about your flaws and choosing peace above fame does not make you a failure. Rather, it makes you human.
But when we came to that room, we talked about, I think I irritated him earlier, playing with the entourage. Yeah. With MO and them, like, cause I look.
Is that true?
As a result, Lloyd doesn't hesitate to admit that he is a more laid-back individual. He does not, however, view that as being the same as being lazy. The drama and power chasing that often come with being in the spotlight have simply never appealed to him. He wants to create music, distribute it on his own terms, and let it do the talking without any other noise. However, that approach seemed uninspired and unappealing from the standpoint of the 1950s. And that's when a lot of their enmity really started to grow. And then there's the loyalty component. If there's one thing the 50s have always discussed, it's that loyalty is everything. In his book, he even said that he would rather be held at gunpoint than have a close friend or relative turn on him. As a result, 50 feels personally betrayed. When people in his network, especially those he helped elevate, start to shift or turn away, and he doesn't hold back when he feels that way. He ends relationships and explains the reason to everyone.
Be robbed at gunpoint, then be betrayed. Not that I suggest you try it. At least getting robbed is exciting. There's an undeniable rush when somebody pulls out their piece and growls, "Get on the fucking floor." Once it's over, provided you don't get shot, you can go tell your friend, "Yo, they just stuck me up." Your pockets might be lighter, but you'll be much stronger overall, having survived the experience. Getting betrayed is different. You don't get a great war story out of it. I've never heard anyone get hyped telling their friends, "Yo, you won't believe this, but I just got backstabbed by my mans." There are no stripes earned for that shit. When you open yourself up to someone, either financially or emotionally, and they go left on you, it's a different kind of pain. Even more dramatic than a stick-up kid physically taking something from you. Like Malcolm X said, to me, the thing that is worse than death is betrayal. You see, I can conceive death, but I could not conceive betrayal.
For 50's answer, he truly believes that he gives his all to the people he spends time with. He will promote you, ride for you, invest in you, and even take risks on your behalf. Therefore, when those same people shift, recede, or behave in a way that seems to betray him, it's worse than death. It's both business and personal, and if he feels duped, there's no going back.
Because I find betrayal so painful, I put incredible thought and consideration into the people who surround me. As I detailed in this chapter, when I was first coming up, I made a mistake of confusing loyalty and location. It's a miscalculation a lot of people make. One, to believe that just because someone is from the same streets as you, that they're gonna have your back forever. I learned the hard way that that's not the case. I think everyone's a little afraid of being too trustful, but I'm definitely worse than most. In my life, I feel like I've been betrayed by people I deserve better from. People I've given money to, opportunities to, love to, even life to. Because of that, for a long time, the only thing I had faith in was money. I only trusted the paper that says, "In God we trust." This is one of the reasons the theme of betrayal is so prominent in my show Power. It's an issue that's always on my mind, so much so that I even called the last season The Final Betrayal.
Therefore, the problem is not limited to Lloyd Banks. 50 Cent has made it clear that he appreciates loyalty, no matter who it is. Over the years, he has distanced himself from everyone he felt disagreed with him, even his own son, Marquise. 50 believed that after their relationship ended, there was no loyalty. Instead of openly attempting to make amends, he chose to move on. For 50, loyalty and trust are essential, and when these are lost, he finds it hard to see the relationship in the same way.
Actually, your son wants to sit down with you.
No, he doesn't. See, Charlamagne, you would call me. You don't call TMZ to say you want to sit down. Think about it, man. You know, you want some attention. And it's okay, you can have as much of that as you want. You know, it's just like he's been trained to believe that you see him say in that interview, that what he was saying, he's been trained to believe that for a long time, bro. Like, you don't just wake up and say, oh, well, I don't believe what I've been believing forever.
But never be open to it?
No, I don't think the relationship works. Look, for a long time, Charlamagne, I went running behind him. I went places that he went, and he left the place.
Therefore, if 50 is willing to stop communicating with his own child because of what he believes to be betrayal, then even his closest friends might not be safe. Tony Yayo, another founding member of the G-Unit, was considered one of the 50's most loyal members. For years, Yayo was there for him through it all, but he was not untouchable. When treasonous rumors started to spread, whether or not they were real, 50 didn't hold back. He publicly criticized Yayo, showing that any sign of change has consequences in his society.
If you don't do it, like if I don't give him something that he wanted murder, then he's gonna go back to doing what we did. You remember saying that to me? You don't remember saying that? Yeah, tell him, you be telling Vlad all kind of I don't want to get into all that.
Look better than Vlad. You think you tell me the Vlad? Yeah. Nice.
You don't even look like the same dude to me
nice
on
for them
Vlad.
stories.
Murph, real shit coming out.
Next up is young Buck. Buck played a significant role in the early 2000s rise of G-Unit. His passion, sense of flair, and Southern influence helped the group reach a larger audience. However, the moment 50 Cent believed Buck was being disloyal, things rapidly took a turn for the worse. Not willing to keep his distance, 50 abruptly and publicly kicked Buck out of the group. Internet taunting, phone call leaks, and diss songs followed, proving that once 50 feels duped, there's no going back.
I think that's over. I think that's done, but
What do you mean?
I think his career is finished. You know what I'm saying? And it's because, like, his temperament, he won't actually get himself, like, right now he's in jail, but knowing who he is from the entire time that he's been around, I don't think he has what it takes to recover from, you know, like, it takes discipline at that point. Because it's when people begin to want to give you resistance. Hip-hop coaches out with the old and with the new.
In the game, formerly one of G-Unit's greatest talents, experienced the same fate. As we all remember, the split between 50 and Game, one of the most talked about feuds in hip-hop history, was savage. Years later, when he saw the photo of Lloyd Banks and the Game together, that was it for 50. He felt betrayed by it. In a since-removed Instagram post, 50 replied with some enigmatic shade. "What do you see when you look at this picture?" Wrote, "I perceive confusion. I'm not sure whether I'm the only one. I consider myself to be a cancer. Don't get old with me. I don't beg for problems, but I don't mind them either. I am special. The question is not how I feel about it, but how does Lloyd Banks feel about it?" He said, simply put, some garbage is better left alone. Now that he's finally gotten his say, do you think Banks and 50 will ever reconcile? Or have the years been too damaging? Watch this next video right here for more, and feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments area below. Stay focused and attentive.